I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Woo! Dum, 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 dum.
Hey,
Morgan eats! I'm hungry! I was supposed to be eating Eritrean food today.
Okay. Stop coming at me about that. I was supposed to bring some Eritrean food today, but we're going to save it for our third, actually, co-host, a part of our panel, who will be here next week. Then we'll all have the Eritrean food. But anyways, what's up, AfterBuzzers? We are going to be getting into 24 Hours to Hell and Back, Season 3, Episode 3. And oh my goodness, do we have a lot to chat with you guys today. So we're going to get right into it. But first, let me introduce myself. I am the one and only Saba Hailemariam. and I've got the awesome Mike Thieling.
What's up, guys?
Co-hosting with me today.
You ever met another Saba?
Oh, yeah, many.
Many?
Tons.
I find no mics.
Well, they're all from my country, right? Well, actually, you know what? Saba is a little bit of a universal name. You'll see girls from India with that name. You'll see girls from the Middle East with that name. It has many meanings, and it's a...
Still more unique than Mike. My joke went right over Saba's head. What's up, everybody? Glad to have you. Yet another restaurant in disrepair that I feel like we could have fixed right away ourselves.
Yes. Okay, so we had the pleasure, you guys, of watching some sad things happen. Okay, so we are going to get right into Caneda's. It looks like Canada. I'm not going to lie. When I first saw it, it kind of looked like Canada to me, but it's not.
Because you're homesick?
I am homesick. I am. So we were watching Caneda's White Rooster restaurant in New Jersey, Tom's River.
Tom's River. They're really, 24 Hours to Hell and Back has really got a Jersey Shore theme going on this season. We've had two back-to-back. I think they're going to keep working their way down. Maybe we get Atlantic City. Maybe we get Wildwood. Maybe we get Wildwood Crest even. So, yes, we're back in my home state of New Jersey for a Cuban restaurant, guys, that, as you saw in the episode, is anything but Cuban. This looked like some posh, upscale, honestly pretty American generic food restaurant.
I mean, it was still beautiful. But it definitely didn't have that Cuban flavor.
The decor didn't match what they were going for whatsoever. And that's
not at all.
Everything, the whole thing I feel like about a restaurant is it's supposed to attack all of your senses.
Yes.
So first visual right when you walk in, then hopefully you're smelling something going around, the other diners eating, the stuff coming from the kitchen, the smells, and then of course finally the taste once you actually get your food. And so a restaurant like Caneda's, which is billing itself as a Cuban restaurant, is failing to me right off the bat.
Oh, yeah, it definitely was. And it doesn't help that Patty, the owner, wasn't really helping with that. So I would say the biggest issue with this restaurant was the owner. So kind of similar to the last episode that we watched. She just did not have this leadership role to her, like at all. She was too busy trying to be a friend to everybody, and that was not working in her favor. What did you think about her leadership skills?
I absolutely thought that they were lacking. This girl didn't really want this restaurant right off the bat, right? So that's what we see. She, we learn a little bit later. I know you're going to get into it.
Yes.
We learn about her kind of upbringing and some of the hard times she went through. But essentially, she owned a very successful empanada, little stand, stall, whatever, what have you. And I think her initial idea in taking on investment and a partner in Jeremy was to expand the empanada business. So she knew this really, really well, how to make good empanadas and how to be successful. He fell in love with those empanadas.
Yes.
Instead, they found this empty building that was for sale, so Jeremy bought it up, with the investment, and now you're going to have a restaurant, which is way over her head. She's a relatively young owner, didn't have that kind of experience of running a whole restaurant in her background, and I think she bit off more than she could chew right off the bat.
Absolutely, and I think that was the first problem, was that she did not have any experience running a restaurant.
The first problem was the terrible disguises that Gordon Ramsay tried to go into it.
That's always a problem.
Once yet again, we find out that Gordon Ramsay cannot drive a car in America. He had celebrities this time in the backseat, and Jeremy, the investor, going in to do the recon, as we know they love to do, dressed terribly like mafioso, just really playing into my Jersey stereotypes. I am part Sicilian. Producer Jonathan is part Italian.
Oh.
Yes.
That's a little fun fact.
Yes.
Caught me off guard right there.
So they're really playing into our stereotypes here. We're in Jersey. We're going to do mafia stuff. We got the dudes from The Sopranos there. Okay, great. And, you know, they go in, and, of course, we're getting crummy food right off the bat. And to me, I want to see what you thought of the food right off the bat. But the saddest thing to me was that the empanadas, which is like, that's what Patty's good at. That was the passion. That's what started the whole thing. The empanadas were bad.
Yes, and that was really sad to see. And they didn't have enough filling. And that was the biggest complaint that Gordon Ramsay had. And not only that, but her portion sizes were really bad. So they had one plate that was like a squid dish, and there was only like 2 little squids, and Vincent Pastore, that's how you pronounce his last name, right?
Yeah.
Pastore. Vincent was so appalled. Like, he was like, what is this? I'm not trying to eat this like little itty bitty squid. And I do not blame him. Absolutely. You know, they're hungry. They came to eat, and lo and behold, they have small portions, barely any filling in the empanadas, burnt salmon.
Right.
So they had, you know, this is actually really interesting to me because the dishes that they had brought out for Gordon to taste and everybody that he had with him, they were traditional Cuban dishes, but one of the dishes was called Jamaican salmon.
I don't know.
Jamaican salmon
I've
is a
never heard of
traditional
it.
Cuban dish. Like, shouldn't it be called Cuban salmon?
It could,
No?
maybe it is. I've
me?
never heard of it before. Interesting. You guys know we look at the Yelp reviews, and we always do that at the end, but really interesting comments in the Yelp reviews about the authenticity of the food before and after Gordon's renovation. We'll get into that at the end.
That's right. So that was really disappointing. But of course, you know, nothing beats when Gordon gets a little bit into the investigator role, starts checking out the kitchen, and of course, it is a disaster.
It's gross. Yeah, I mean,
disgusting.
Once again, we say this over and over and over again. Zia and I have been saying it for 2 seasons now. A lot of the problems of these restaurants are very easily fixable. Clean the kitchen. I mean, it's not rocket science, right? It's not like you need a complete rebranding of a restaurant to know to clean your appliances, clean the stove. Every time you know Gordon's going to be able to go in there, you know, wipe his fingers across the little crevice or whatever it is up there, the nooks and crannies above the stove, he's going to come out with goop and glop. And you know they haven't cleaned it for months and months and months. That's just ridiculous. You know, you can keep times and dates on food. We saw octopus that I think was the octopus that they served to Gordon Ramsay. It was obviously way expired. It was obvious putrid. This is one of the first times we've seen the cameraman gag at it. We saw the lettuce was basically liquefying itself. That was disgusting. These things are really easy to keep track of. And if your restaurant is failing, this is surefire stuff that should be, you know, this is basic stuff. You clean everything, and the food that you're serving isn't rotting. Standard. Okay, standard business practices. But for some reason, these restaurants, and it's like, you know, you're going to be on the show. This is like the least you can do. But obviously they don't want them to do that because then we wouldn't have a show. Sure. The funny thing to me is always the reaction when they see Gordon. To me, it would be like, yes, thank you, God. I'm going to get a bunch of free stuff, and my restaurant is going to be made over, and it's going to be fantastic. They always seem so scared. It's like, you know your restaurant's failing. You signed up for the show. You know, I usually be pumped up. The best, which we haven't had in a while, actually, this season especially, and near the end of last season, if I'm remembering right, has been really, really tame with owners. As we were talking about before the show, this show doesn't get as crazy as Kitchen Nightmares or even Hell's Kitchen. Kitchen Nightmares, you get a lot of owners who are very defiant.
Yes.
Okay. Not so much with 24 Hours for some reason. The casting departments, whatever they're doing, they're finding the right people. I love the people that are super indignant. Like, no, my food is amazing. No, it's not. If Gordon Ramsay is there, your stuff is terrible. Like, you just have to know right off the bat that something is going wrong. Okay. There's been a couple exceptions, to be fair, where the food was good. It's just terribly mismanaged and all that other kind of stuff. But it's been pretty crazy how open and accepting a lot of these owners have been.
It is. And it's really unfortunate, too, at the same time, because it makes you wonder, like, why would you even get into the restaurant business to begin with? You know,
I think there's passion there, and then all of a sudden it gets lost along the way somehow. I think you get muddied down. So actually, to your point, Patty is a perfect example. She loves empanadas. She had a passion for it. It's a very, especially I think in the Cuban culture, that community, these empanadas, I think there was a lot of love coming out of that, right? A lot of love she was putting in. And then she ends up with this restaurant and investors. Investors are a whole new level of stress, right? Running a restaurant is a whole new level of stress that she never had to think about before, right? So you're getting further and further removed from making empanadas, which is what the passion was in the first place.
Absolutely.
You get bogged down in all that other stuff.
Well, it's interesting that you say, you become stressed and, you tend to care less. But it's funny because I feel like what we saw out of Patty wasn't so much of a stressed out individual. She seemed pretty relaxed to me.
Yeah.
I mean, the secret cam, right? Like when Gordon was showing everybody, exposing everybody.
Right.
She's, hanging out with the staff, chilling, laughing, showing stuff off her phone. It's like, really?
Well,
are you that stressed out? Are you that hot and bothered? Because you do not show me signs of somebody who really cares and who is really fighting to bring their restaurant back up to where it used to be. So I don't understand Patty. I really don't. She really confused me because then when she had her moment, I believe it was like with her friend or coworker that she was confiding in her office. That's what I really felt for her. I really did. I was like, oh, wow. She really does care. But then you see what she's doing behind the scenes.
Right.
Or what was caught on the secret cam. Yeah. I'm sorry. This woman, no.
Actually, with all of these owners,
she does not care.
Actions don't match what they're saying, right? So you're never going to find an owner for one of these restaurants in these shows that are doing everything they possibly can, like grinding away, putting in all the hours on top of everything. You never are, because those people are going to be successful, right? Unless there's some intangible thing that they can't control that Gordon can fix. Right. So maybe this is, and no excuses, but this could possibly be the way that stress is manifesting itself for her. And she's, just trying to stay away from it and go a little bit towards the motherly role and trying to de-stress by honestly just chilling and kind of not thinking about it. She's putting all these stresses on the back burner so she doesn't think about it. And that's how it manifests for her. Either way, it's not helping the problem. It's not solving anything. Yeah,
absolutely. And that's a really good take on it as well, is that, everyone reacts differently. Right? Everyone takes stress on differently. Sure. So, yeah, you're right. Maybe that doesn't mean that she doesn't care. She just handles it in that type of a way.
Right.
But let's talk about her team. So her head chef, Phil.
Right.
Now, we get Patty, she's, not the best leader, really relaxed, chill and calm, not so much of a boss, but her team is a problem as well.
Sure.
We've got Phil, who's supposed to be the executive chef.
Right. Phil,
he didn't even know basic, chef lingo, Mike.
Right. Phil,
that was crazy.
To me, Phil is a perfect mirror of Patty because Patty was promoted into this restaurateur position way before she was ready. As Phil has been promoted into this executive chef position way before he was ready. He was essentially, I don't want to put it down or anything or denigrate it. I believe he was essentially a line cook or a sous chef or something like that.
Right.
And then I think the position was open and she just kind of shoved him there, right? Because again, she doesn't have experience in hiring people. As we come to find out later, the executive chef is completely different now, right? With an actual professional person.
Right.
So her solution was, well, Phil's here, so we promote Phil. Just as she's not ready, he's not ready, and everything just suffers.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was a very, very sad to see, because if we don't see the owner taking charge and we don't even see the executive chef taking charge, that means the rest of the team is literally useless.
The really sad thing about Phil is, similar to Patty, getting a little bit lazy. He's not keeping track of the food. He's not cleaning, we can see. But he's not like a lot of the chefs that we do see on the show where they're lacking the skills. This is way over their head. They just are missing some of the motivation and some of the leadership. This kid seems like he's got it relatively together. We saw when he goes and trains with Mary, right? Mary, Gordon's expert, that he's got a lot of potential. He's doing the best out of all the chefs that are training with her.
Right.
He's still not quite there. He's not assertive enough, but that can be taught and learned over time. That comes with a lot of, gusto and a lot of self-confidence that he will surely gain as he keeps cooking more and more and more. But the potential is there and the skills are there. So that's a real big positive for this restaurant, as opposed to, we've seen chefs over and over again get fired because they're just not good enough. They can't hack it and they become complacent. It's not the case with this kid. So
absolutely.
I was optimistic with that.
Yes, there is room to progress, but at the moment, very sad. And you know what else was really sad? was the tear-jerking moment that Patty was telling us about. So she was giving us the story, remember, on how 11 years ago her husband walked out on her on their anniversary. Who does that?
On their anniversary. You know what? I'll tell you who wouldn't do that. Us to any of you.
That's
because
right.
We love all of you viewers. We treat you guys like our extended panel. We love, we can't live stream right now and it's killing us because I love interacting with all you guys on the stream, but we're reading all your comments and we love you guys so much. So please, AfterBuzz is here for you with all the different shows that you guys love to watch across all different genres of television. Anything you want, we've got an after show for it. So if you guys are watching us on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to all the AfterBuzz channels. Give me a big thumbs up. And if you're listening to me on iTunes or any of the podcasting services, give us a big 5-star review. Let us know that you did in the comments so we can shout you out. Thank you so much for making AfterBuzz TV the ESPN of TV talk. We don't walk out on anybody. We're always here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But what blew my mind was that, she did open up such a successful empanada shop after her husband had left her.
Well, not only the husband, but she had to sell all of her jewelry and stuff. She said just to provide for her and her family. So that's a lot of intestinal fortitude right there. That's a lot. She's got a strong person. She knows how to deal with adversity. Again, she's just too much too quick, just over her head right off the bat with this restaurant. We know she was successful with the empanadas. Wow, Mike. Empanadas. Those little meat pockets. And she could do it. It's just too much, right? She really needs... So investor Jeremy Dude really needed to provide like a manager, or that should have been their hire. Here's a restaurant manager, let her run the kitchen or something like that, which she's good at, and let her learn instead of taking all this on and just kind of a recipe for disaster right off the bat.
I just can't believe though that she's not as motivated as you would expect her to be, because I find that, when people go through something very tumultuous or traumatizing, it'll motivate you.
Right.
It'll motivate you to be successful and to never, ever return back to that horrible state that they used to be in. And I just don't see that motivation with her. I don't see that desire, that passion, that fire. You know what? I went through something tough and here I am. I'm going to make this restaurant work. And not only that, but oh my gosh, you guys, I totally forgot to mention. So Jeremy, the investor, has already put $2 million into the restaurant. What else do you need? I feel like she has so many, fires, lighting up her tush.
I think it's just too much.
Reacting.
I think it's too much for her, and she's too confused. And it's just too much. We see, they go into the remodel, and this, as opposed to the first 2 episodes, needed a lot of remodeling because the theme of the restaurant and the look were completely off, right?
Yeah.
So Gordon's team goes to changing it around to a Cuban look and style. We see with these beautiful colors and flair, and she immediately hates the color.
Yeah,
right?
That's
tough for someone to differentiate if you're over your head and I think it's a you can't see the forest through the trees kind of thing.
Right.
It doesn't matter if you don't like yellow. Right? You're running a Cuban restaurant. These vibrant colors are kind of inherent to that vibe and having all your guests feel welcome and just kind of getting in that mood for the kind of food they're going to take. Luckily, though, she got there because the renovation was exactly what this place needed to get it back into the right feel.
Oh, yeah. It was gorgeous. I absolutely loved the renovations, okay? As opposed to some of the prior episodes where we really didn't see too much of a turnaround.
Right.
This one was literally like night and day.
Yep.
I loved it. What did you think of the renovations?
I loved it too. Just like we said, it's spot on. It's what it needed. It's got to match
10 out of 10.
the theme. It's got to match the food I'm expecting to have. It would be like having Italian restaurant and then having Japanese kanja all over the place and chopsticks and stuff. It just doesn't. I love both those foods, but they don't match up right. That's not the sensory whole experience I'm trying to get when I go to a restaurant.
Absolutely. So yeah, they definitely nailed the decor. I couldn't be any more happier than that. That was definitely the highlight for me. So now when they come back for the reopening,
not good.
The team, which was so heartbreaking, and this is what I'm talking about. Going back to what I was saying before about, nothing seems to really be motivating Patty.
Right.
It's like she has all these scares, all these moments where it's like, listen, You know, this restaurant is on, it's riding on an extremely thin, like, line. It's hanging off of a very sensitive, thin thread. And, you know, you would think that she would, you know, it would scare her into getting it together.
Well,
and it doesn't.
This is very, very similar. You know, everybody who watches me on AfterBuzz here knows I'm just like a king of reality TV. I love the reality stuff. Shark Tank is one of my favorite shows.
Oh, me too.
It's my favorite show that we don't cover on AfterBuzz for some reason. But constant theme on Shark Tank is I don't want to give you all this money, right? Or they don't invest in people who've already raised a ton of money because you don't have that fear. The money ends up as like a safety blanket, a security net, and you don't have the fire when it's all your money online. It's Jeremy's money. So if this fails, what's the real thing? So again, you say there's a lot of fires, but in essence, maybe not really, because she's not standing to lose a lot. He's standing to lose $2 million. But what is she going to lose? A relationship? Right? So she hasn't put a ton of stuff into it. She doesn't even really have, I mean, her name is on it, but who's going to remember that? Like, it's not a big deal. She could all of a sudden call a new restaurant Patty's and no one would know the difference. So I think that takes a bunch of fire out of it. Now, what we see with the service back, these guys, even though Gordon pared down the menu, there's still a lack of knowledge. They haven't reached that, they haven't really attained that level of perfection with the new dishes. And we're seeing inconsistencies all over the place. But they did kind of finally see Patty step up, which, of course, in the end led to Jeremy, the investor, saying, okay, I'm going to give you 90 days. I like this. They're going to take it piecemeal. Let's do 90 days and see if we're able to make things go on the upswing, in which case we can go another 90 days. So instead of just giving, he needs to take a little bit more control of his money. He's a major investor, right? He's got to get in on this and say, okay, I'm not going to just let you waste all my money. We're going to take this now. I gave you free reign. Now we're going to take it 90 days at a time and see where we're at. Are we making changes? Are you sticking to this stuff? Are you implementing? Otherwise, sell it, get the money back that you can, and move on.
Absolutely. You know what? I really like that you said that. That was a really good point, how Jeremy doesn't also seem to have like this kind of more of an assertive, even aggressive leadership demeanor to him. You know, he seems also really easygoing and kind of like, okay, Patty, you tried your best. Good job.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm sorry. For me, I disagree with him giving her the 90 days. I think that was her moment of truth, was the reopening of the restaurant, you know, the food being delicious, in which it was. He did say the food was good. However, where was the entrees? It was taking forever.
So there's a lot of problems.
They messed up with some of the food in the kitchen, and, you know, Gordon Ramsay ended up throwing out like a huge plate of food. Like, this is unacceptable. You know, this was, again, the moment of truth. And also where she needed to show Jeremy, like, hey, I'm worth it. This restaurant is worth it. I need you to continue to invest.
Well, see, we're running out of time because this is a fun episode. But I think we see kind of the changes as in the post wrap-up, we see that, is it Chef Lisa? I forget her name. Chef Lisa?
Yeah, Lisa makes a cameo.
Chef Lisa from the previous episode of
Blend on Maine.
There you go. She now works here. So interesting that Gordon is starting, almost what I said, like if you're one of these chefs, you need to be whispering to Gordon, like, I really want to work for you.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Somehow, like, Gordon is assembling this little random team of people in New Jersey to move around. So maybe that was part of the condition. Look, I still believe in you because of what our relationship in the past, but we got to make some big changes. Bring in Chef Lisa in, an experienced chef who's going to do a great job on the line, a great job as an executive chef. That's a really, really big step. So I think that's probably something that Jeremy incorporated into his willingness to continue the relationship. We got to get to the Yelp reviews because this is really big for this one, guys. Producer Jonathan is going to bring it up for us on the screen real quick. Woo. Ding, ding.
Hey.
Because this is one of the only times in the 2 seasons that we've been covering this, guys. And Jonathan, I can't see on the screen, but if you could please sort it to newest first right there. If you have it in Yelp Store. We want newest first. Oh, you have it on newest first. Thank you so much. The reviews after Gordon's renovation are at best par, if not mostly worse, than the reviews from before. So after watching, well, some of these actually are fake reviews because they actually never went there. But I'm seeing a lot of bland food, or on the other side of that, extremely over-seasoned food. And then I want to find the one review that flat out said that before the renovation, it's Juan T's review, Jonathan, from November 17th. Sorry about that, guys. Thanks for sticking with us. November 17th, 2019. I can't believe they're showing the old pictures. This place was great and classy before and truly traditional Cuban. And they're saying that post the renovation, Gordon kind of turned it more Tex-Mex than the traditional Cuban roots.
Oh, wow.
We didn't get to see a ton, right, of the food, but I thought if someone went that deep, I would hope they actually know what they're talking about. And they call out a lot. I mean, I'm from Jersey. They call out Hoboken, which has some really good Cuban restaurants. He calls out a bunch of the other dishes. So it seems like this gentleman, Juan, is pretty knowledgeable for as far as Yelp reviewers can go, right?
Yeah.
And it's really, really sad to see. So I don't know. A lot of issues with the service, a lot of issues with the seasoning. And we know that they did these renovations around late October of last year. So hopefully by now they've been able to turn some of it around, but not looking great. Not looking great, which brings us, of course, to our other special segment. Saba! Would you eat there?
I would. I would give it a chance.
I would too.
I would. I mean, even though these reviews are a little frightening, I would give it a chance. Yeah, I would give it a chance.
I would. Overall, the cleanliness wasn't that bad.
Nah.
You know, it's always gross, but when you see this kind of stuff, you're like, yo, the restaurants you probably go to, you'd probably be pretty grossed out if you went back in the kitchen too. So,
I hear you.
You know, whatever.
All right. What about you?
Yeah, I would try it.
You
For
would
sure.
try it?
Oh, yeah,
All
absolutely.
right.
I have a very wide range of, I'm down with hole in the wall kind of places, and the cleanliness and stuff seemed fine. Not too bad, especially outside of the kitchen. And yeah, I would be willing to give them a shot, especially for the empanadas. If you're deep frying it, you're probably killing most of the bad stuff anyway.
Absolutely. Okay, you guys. Well, that's all the time that we have. Thank you, AfterBuzzers, so much for tuning in. That was 24 Hours to Hell and Back After Show, Season 3, Episode 3, with me and Mike Thieling. And if you guys... Thieling. And if you guys want to check me out a little bit more, you can find me on Instagram at I am.Saba Hailemariam or my website at sabahailemariam.com. And where can they find you, Mike?
Guys, thanks so much for joining us. I won't be here next week when Saba decides to actually bring the Eritrean food that's messed up, but you can find me everywhere at Mike Thieling. Eat well. Good night, guys.
Bye.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.